BooktUbe, it's Jackie. How's it going? If you're new to me, it's the first time you're seeing my face. Hello, what's up? My name's Jackie. I sit on my floor and I talk about books. So that's why you're here, because that's what's going to be happening today. If you're not new to me, thank you for always tuning in and the continued support. I really do appreciate it. So today for you, as you can see from the day's title of the video, is my January wrap-up. It's that time of the month again where I get to remind myself of everything that I read and also be reminded of everything that I didn't read. So... yeah, it's that time, guys. So, without further ado, grab yourself a drink, have yourself a seat, let's get talking some books. Okay, this is the first wrap-up of 2023, so we're going to be doing this a little bit differently than my normal wrap-ups. Normally, I go into the books that I didn't go over, that I didn't touch, then I do some stats, and then I talk about every single book that I read. Because my videos are already very, very long, I mean, I'm a talker, we all know this, and there are some diehards out there that will watch my 45, 55-minute wrap-ups, and I love you guys. I love you, I love you, I love you. I think that is adorable, and I think you guys are rock stars. But I do want to kind of condense these just a little bit more because I do talk about every single book that I read in the month during my weekly wrap-ups. If you are not familiar with my weekly wrap-up series, I will link it up here for you guys so you can go check it out, where I go into in-depth on every single book that I read, minus a few select ones, because if they have a review or something like that. So what I will be doing this year for my wrap-ups is I am going to be doing my stats as always, and I'll talk about the books that I didn't get to, but I will only be discussing the books that were 3 stars or higher, except for this month I had, based off the number of books, I decided to only discuss the 4-star and up books at the end, but I will still mention all the books that I read. So with all that out there, all those newfangled thingies, let's get into it. So the books that I did not complete from my January TBR, which will be linked down below so you can go check it out. I did not get to 44 Chapters About 4 Men by B.B. Easton or Sex Life Skin by B.B. Easton. These books I picked for my buzzword challenge hosted by Books and Lala. The buzzword for January was life, and I only had the one, but to read this book, you had to read this one. And I didn't get to either one of them, but I still plan on reading them at some point in time in the year. I know, famous last words. I know. You don't have to remind me. Famous last words. I know. I'll probably eat those at some point in time. It'll be December. I haven't touched it, but you know what? They're going to be on my radar because this is a series that I would like to check out. I do have one book that I did start, but I have not completed, and that is The Zodiac Academy by Caroline Peckham and Susan Valenti, The Awakening, Book 1. I will be doing a full vlog on this. I am still in the process of reading it and working on that vlog, so you will be seeing this one very, very soon. But other than that, this is what I did complete. I completed a total of 11 books this month. 11 books. Yeah. 10 physical books and 1 audiobook. A lot less audiobooks than I'm used to, but that's okay. Kind of get back the swing. And sometimes you just gotta love your physical shelves. You just gotta love them, you know? Now, my total page count of completed books that I read this month was 3,116 pages. I am really, really proud of that stat because I think that's the most pages I've read in a month, to be perfectly honest. I'd have to go back and check, but I think it is the most. So I'm really, really proud of myself on that. I had some big books this month. My listening time total was 2 hours and 56 minutes, which was that one audiobook. It works, you know, guys. And my average rating of all 11 books was a 3.6. So not a bad month for stats-wise. So I'm pretty happy about that. Now, for the books I will not be discussing, but if you'd like to get in any further detail on these, you can go check out my weekly wrap-up. That playlist we linked down below and also in the card earlier in this video. So I read Amore by Kimberly Knight, and I gave this 2 stars. This was my first book for my ABCs of Love Readalong, which is hosted by me and Jenn over at the Book Refuge. And we did a live show with this book and Beckon by Verlene Landon, which I gave 3 stars. So I read both of these books for this read along, and you can see my thoughts and views and what worked and what didn't work in that live show. I will link it up here for you guys so you can go check that out. I also read Twin Flames by A. Breyer. I gave this 3 stars. This was a quick little novella that packed a fucking punch. Please check the trigger list on this book if you like to pick it up, but it definitely is worth it. And I also read Fire in His Blood by Ruby Dixon, which was 3 stars as well. Again, you can find a further in-depth review of those books in my weekly wrap-up. Now, for the books that were 4 stars and up, let's get into it. So, my first 5-star book of the year, granted, majority of this book was read at the end of 2022, but I did technically finish it in 2023, so I'm counting it, was Kingdom of Ash by Sarah J. Maas. This is the final installment to the Throne of Glass series that I was reading for the SJM Readalong, and I had a grand fucking time with this book. I did a full reading vlog on this as well, so I'll link it up here for you guys and down below. This thing was fucking phenomenal. This was the perfect way to end this series. The people that didn't make it, I know will be missed, and the endings that I got, I am okay with. I am happy, and even some of the endings I believe could potentially become spin-off series, and I would love to see that. There was one moment in this book that was difficult. I didn't cry. I wasn't super emotional in this book. If you watch the vlog, you'll see that. But there was one moment where it was the original 3. Dorian, Chaol, and Island. It was all 3 of them together, and that moment was probably the most heartfelt because it reminded me of where they came from and where they are now, and it reminded me of the journey I've come as a reader as well. Throne of Glass was the very first Sarah J. Maas book I ever picked up, and this is the first completed series that I've ever picked up by Sarah J. Maas, and I regret not reading these when they first came out, but I'm also very happy that I didn't because I don't think I would have had the same appreciation for this book series if I read them when I was younger. Sarah J. Maas, through this read-along, has become literally my favorite author. She won my Best New to Me author in 2022, and this won Best Completed Series of 2022 for me in my First Lady Awards video, which I will link down below. It's all my best of 2022. This series will hold a very special place in my heart forever, and I could not have asked for a better way to start 2022 other than with a finale that was to end all finales. This thing was excellent, and I had a great time with this installment along with all of the previous installments. All of these characters have a permanent place in my heart and my home, and I cannot wait to visit them again. So, 5 stars all the way. The next book I completed that is above 3 stars was The 4-Leaf by Lee Jacquot. It looks like this. This was my one audiobook for the month. This was my nice little 2-hour and 56-minute audiobook. This audiobook was done by Jacqueline Kelso and Vio Eros, which I will flat out tell you, Vio Eros is the reason I picked up this book. I picked it up for the audiobook. I wanted to hear his voice because his voice is like fucking amazing. If you ever listen to him or follow him on TikTok, you fucking know this man's voice. It's superb, and he did a great job with this book. This is one of the Holy Night novellas by Lee Jacquot. This is friends to lovers, and we have graphic sexual situations, and we have an emphasis on the primal kink. The primal kink, if you're not familiar, it's the act of receiving sexual gratification through primal practices. Primal practices can apply to a range of behaviors such as biting, clawing, scratching, hair pulling, growling, animalistic style behaviors, predator-prey concepts, top and bottom dynamics, dominant, submissive dynamics, things of that nature, and it can lead to a little bit more on the sadist, masochist side of the BDSM community. So definitely a more extreme kink, I would say, because I don't want to say taboo because I don't like that word. I don't like calling things taboo, but it's definitely not a kink or a type of play that is practiced by everybody, but at least in the form that it is in this novel. We have Samantha and Adrian. They've been friends for years. Samantha and Adrian's parents together bought this hotel, and Adrian, when he became, I believe he's a rugby player. When he became a professional rugby player, he sold his portion to Samantha and her sister, but he does come back and every once in a while and help out with repairs and things of that nature. And one time he comes back and he wants to know. He's tired of not knowing what it could be with Samantha, and he wants to know if she could accept his personal way of gratification. And it turns into a nice little cat and mouse story with some really intense sexual scenes, and I had a great fucking time with this book. It was fantastic. A few things that worked. We had a great consent conversation. So if consent is something that's important to you, you see it through this, but it's actually part of the dialogue. It's not just sitting there having a conversation. It's worked into the storyline where it makes it kind of fun and free. We even have a safe word. It's described what the safe word is for, why it's there, what possibly could happen, but it's not boring and bogging down with information. It's very much laced within the dialogue, and it's a very, I mean, you've got VO Arrows talking, and it's just, God, that man's voice is amazing. All right. Absolutely fantastic. I did pick this book for the audiobook, and the audiobook was fantastic. I did have some gripes about the audiobook, but for the most part, it was phenomenal because it wasn't just a straight audiobook. It was almost like a conversation. So you had the characters literally talking to each other in their own voices. Jacqueline only voiced Samantha. VO Arrows only voiced Arrows. So when they were actually talking to each other in dialogue, you heard their voices. And I didn't expect that at first, and it kind of threw me for a loop. But when I got used to it, I thought it was fantastic. And we also got some sound effects. And the sound effects are some sexy sounds that when you hear, you know what they are. And they're nice. They're fantastic. So very, very, very fun audiobook. One of the few things that didn't work was actually a point in the audiobook. The only thing I really found that didn't really work about this book, other than it wasn't long enough, I wanted it longer. I always want novellas longer. It seems a common thread with me, is that there were certain times in the audiobook where I felt the character of Aiden was needed to be sounding more aggressive in nature because of who he was talking to or what he was talking about. And VO Arrows has a very sensual quality, and it's the quality that I love the most about his voice. It just didn't hit for me there, but that is a personal thing for me. I know a lot of people have listened to this book and his voice is amazing, he's on point, he's perfect. That's completely fine. He has a fantastic fucking sexy voice and he knows how to use it. I just felt for me, there was some times where he needed to be not so sensual and more of like a guttural. And I've heard some of his stuff where he sounds like an ass and is angry. So that's what I needed to hear then, and I didn't hear it. So, but we do have a spice rating for this, 4 chili peppers. We have kind of a hunting aspect with that primal play. We have the audio sound effects, which if you like ASMR, that is definitely going to tend to, you will enjoy this audiobook a lot because you do get some of those wet sounds that are really nice. So yes, this thing was a good fucking time. It was a good fucking time, and I definitely recommend it. And it is a fast read, 2 hours and 56 minutes. So, all right. The next book that we'll be talking about is After the Game by Abby Glines. And this I gave 4 stars. This is the 3rd installment in the Field Party series. I decided to go back to this because this is one of the series I want to complete at the end of this year. This is a small town romance with a football romance as well. We have a teenage mom trope. We also have family sickness, trigger for a family sickness of Alzheimer's, cheating not by the hero, and flashbacks of sexual assault off page. So in this installment, we follow Brady and Riley, both people we have met in previous installments. Riley we met in the previous installment, and Brady we met in the previous 2 installments. Brady is featured a little bit more in the 2nd installment as he's part of that love triangle. And then by the end of that book, he kind of just gets kicked off because it becomes Gunner's messed up fucking family tree, but Riley is also connected to Gunner because she was sexually assaulted by Gunner's, well, now we know, nephew, but we thought was older brother. Yeah, crazy. You don't have to read the first 2 installments to understand this book, but I do recommend it because there's a lot of crossovers that just will make some little moments of this book just a little bit more cohesive and give you a better rounded picture of the whole storyline. But it is not necessary to read it because Abby does give you what you need, but the pieces that you need will spoil those first 2 books, just so you know. So Brady is Mr. Nice Guy. He's been Mr. Nice Guy in every single installment we've seen, and it continues in this. But however, Riley, after her assault and who she accused, she was ran out of town because nobody believed her. But she is back trying to take care of her grandmother who's been diagnosed with Alzheimer's, and she has a daughter now. And when Brady encounters Riley, he thinks the daughter is a little sister. And then it comes out that it is actually his daughter. And I believe you say her name as Bryony. I think it's how you say her name. And it starts him to start thinking about what he did in the past and thinking maybe she didn't lie. Maybe she was telling the truth. And their romance starts to form and starts to develop. And in a town where she is not welcome, Brady has to kind of go on the defense a few times, and he has to make choices of, do I acknowledge her? Do I not? How do I see? So it's kind of like a secretive romance as well. This thing was awesome. I had such a good time with this. I did. I have had a good time with every single installment of the series so far. I'm super excited to continue with it. The tie-ins to the previous novels were there. They were on point, and I really, really enjoyed them. I love the struggle of Brady. That was one thing that really, really worked in this book, because Brady is Mr. Nice Guy, but something happens to him that really starts to fracture this picture of the perfect world that he has lived in. And it's something that's really close to home for him. And he doesn't really know how to cope. But what he sees is other people breaking the rules and getting away with it. And it's just like, fuck this. Why can't I do this? Why do I have to follow the rules? Why do I have to always be that guy? Why can't I be the fucking asshole just once? And I remember being 18, which is how old Brady is, and coming out of that high school bubble where the world, everybody around you protects you, and then you start seeing the holes in your protection, and you start realizing that the world is not perfect, and it's not always going to be perfect. You have to work with its ups and downs, and you have to learn how to adapt and learn how to overcome. I really liked how Abby Glein showed that with Brady, because that struggle is real for literally everybody. Everybody goes through that moment where they realize the world they have grown up in is not the same. That protective bubble and sphere is gone, and you're in it. And now when you fuck up, serious shit happens. There are consequences. There are results and actions for every single choice. It's not just, oh, I didn't do my assignment, I'll catch it next time. No, serious shit's now happening if you don't do what's expected of you and what is required of you as, you know, the upcoming adult. And I really liked how she did that. The other thing I really liked with this novel that I've noticed throughout her other 2 books in this series and her previous series of the Existence series is Abby Glein touches on really, really dark triggers. We have sexual assault off page in this. We have a messed up family tree in the second one, and we have a suicide in the first one with a death of a family member. So we've got some heavy hitting triggers that are very, very dark and very, very serious, but you don't just focus on those. What Abby does is she uses that, but what she focuses on, instead of focusing on the negative, she tries to find the silver lining on everything. And that's what she kind of just shoves in your face. And I really liked this emphasis on the positive. Yes, bad things happen, but you have to look on the bright side or the bad things are going to consume you. And I think that's kind of the other underlying message of all of these books so far. And I'm kind of hoping that this carried through the rest of the series, because so far it's been in these 3 and it's really prevalent in this one. Brady, although he is going through hell, Riley has gone through hell. Both of them are trying to look on the bright side the entire time, trying to look past the hurdles and look towards a future that's bright and shiny and special and safe. And it's just, I just loved it. I loved the feel that this book gave me. Every single book in her series so far has given me a great feel, and this one is no exception. There are a few things that didn't work. There was some over maturity at times on the behalf of Riley. Being a teenage mom, she does look at things differently. She has to, but I didn't really see the internal struggle of a teen becoming an adult faster than what she needed to be. In Brady's experience, that was a transition that I can understand. Riley's, maybe it already happened and we just didn't see it because we already coming into her already having a young daughter and everything. So maybe she already learned it, but it just felt like being some of the pulls that she had, I felt the teen would have started to come out in just a little bit more than what I was seeing. So, and Bryony was perfect. She never threw a fit. I kind of had a problem with it. I'm like, toddlers are not always perfect. They're always cute, but they're not always perfect. And every time she was around adults, she was just, peppy and smiley and damn near spoken complete sentences. That was just a little annoying for me every once in a while. The other main thing that I didn't think worked in this book, not that I wanted to see the sexual assault, but we have this build up to the sexual assault of Riley. We have it. We have these italicized pages of the night that it happens. And we're building up, and then finally you think you're going to get it. And it's just like a line that she tells Brady. And I'm like, you just gave me all this buildup and description of how it was going to happen, and then it doesn't, and you don't actually see it. So that was just kind of a waste of my time. I kind of would have rather her, done more with Riley and Brady together if you weren't going to actually fulfill that portion. Why give me all the buildup and not actually what happened? I just get a line about what happened. So that was a little irritating for me. There is I gave half a chili pepper to this because there's like a little steamy, heavy petting makeout scene, and that's pretty much it. It's pretty tame. Yeah, it's a pretty tame one compared to the other ones, but I'm okay with that. I'm okay. I still had a great time with this. Like I said, I gave this one a 4-star, and I plan on continuing with the rest of the series. So Abby Glines did it again for me. Did it again. The next book I have is Nikki Sloane's Frat Boy, which I gave 4 stars to. This I read for the Smut Club hosted by Cheyenne over That Tall Book Girl and Michae at Oh Hates Michae. And this was the slut. This was the Smut Club book for January. And this is the 4th installment to the Nashville Neighbors series, which I have not read any other prior installments to that. So going in, I was a little leery because I don't really like reading books out of series order. Even if they can be read as a standalone, I just feel weird. It's just a thing I have. But it did read just fine, but I do feel like there's definitely couples that are mentioned that I'm pretty sure are in previous installments. So are they spoiled? I'm not for sure. I haven't read them yet. But I do feel like based off the way that they were used in the book that they are previous couples. So you have that. We have graphic sexual content in this. We have hate to love. We have film content, so pornographic content, actually like filming pornos, a filming porno trope. And we have multiple partners without emotional attachment. And we have fantasy fulfillment. So a lot of fun stuff. A lot of fun stuff in this one. We have Colin and Madison. They are in a fraternity and a sorority, and they're at doing a Greek week kind of final culmination event, and Colin and Madison are the final relay of this big race. Well, one of Colin's frat brothers cheats and throws the baton that Madison is supposed to carry over this kind of balancing beam, and she goes and retrieves it and still holds her own against Colin, but Colin just ekes by because she would have taken this race had they not thrown this baton. Her sorority would have won, and she is pissed. She is pissed beyond all belief, and she says something and nobody believes her. And the kicker is the ref saw it and doesn't say anything. So she literally looks like she's just a spoiled sport and a crybaby because she lost. Colin decides to make a comment based off of some incorrect knowledge that he knows, and it sets her off, and she starts this huge mud fight. And in this mud fight, it makes the school look bad. So the the school board decides to disband the fraternity and sororities kind of Greek week thing, and all of the Greek life is just like up in arms, like, you can't do this, please don't do this. There's a cash prize of like $5,000, plus this is all history for our fraternities and sororities. And if you've ever been in a fraternity or sorority, that stuff, this shit matters. It gives you standing, it gives you kind of street cred, lack of a better word. So this stuff all matters. And so the president of their fraternity and sorority decide to give this option, like, look, we have 2 bad apples. Let us get rid of the bad apples and keep our stuff. And they get ousted. Colin and Madison are ousted, and now because they live in the fraternity and sorority houses, they no longer have housing. So they answer an ad for kind of like a work-study program, but the work-study program is porn. And they both answer the ad, and when they go to do the audition, they find out they have to audition together. And that's where our story really, really kicks off, and it kicks off in a very steamy, a very hate-filled, a very fun, a very erotic, a super, super sexy, fucking good way. This thing was awesome. I had such a good time with this. 4 stars. A few things that worked. Colin and Madison's chemistry right off the bat. The hate chemistry was there, and the love chemistry was there. It was written so well into them. I had such a great fucking time with them. Oh my God. I loved it. Their sex scenes, fuck me running. These things were fucking hot. Oh my God. Oh yeah. And they're on film. Yeah, that was fucking great. They were fantastic. I really, really enjoyed those scenes. But one thing that really, really I loved about this book was the concept of fantasy fulfillment and not being ashamed of your sexual natures and what turns you on. We have Madison, who is slightly intrigued by different things, and through this novel, she discovers this other world that she just loves to embrace. She has embraced her sexual kitten side, and she is doing some threesomes. She's doing female, 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 male, 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 female. She's doing it all back and forth. She's masturbating on camera. She's enjoying herself. She is loving herself. And I just fucking ate that shit up. I do not kink shame people. I think that shit is bullshit. And I love the fact that this book just kind of celebrated the sexual diversity that there can be. Now, it doesn't touch on all of it by any means, but it is written in a way where you are to celebrate your sexual nature and your sexual fantasies and act on them and enjoy yourself and have fun, because sex can be fun, and it's fun in this book. Yes, there is, you know, some emotional components, but most of it's actually really fucking fun. And playing with people and playing with roles and stereotypes and things like that in this very freeing and open environment. I just love the way Nikki Sloan created that, and I just thought it was perfect. That was fan-fucking-tastic. One thing I didn't really care for in this book is I've literally watched this porn. This setup I have seen in pornos before, so it wasn't a super original, unique concept to me, but that's just me, because I've literally seen this. And you know, the book is called Frat Boy, but they're only in the frat and the sorority house for like maybe the first like 50 pages, if that. And then they're no longer frat boys and sorority girls. They're porn stars. They're porn stars. So I would have much preferred a different title than what I got. And they never used the frat boy sorority girl trope for a porno. They never did it. And I thought it was kind of dumb and a wasted opportunity to kind of bring it back, you know, kind of like the title thing. So that didn't really work for me very much in this book, but this thing was awesome. The spice rating on this, I gave it 3.5 chili peppers because of the voyeuristic nature of it. They are enjoying people watching them on film, and they are enjoying performing on camera. I loved the multiple locations and the role playing that we got. I fucking loved it. And I really enjoyed the threesome action that was involved in this, because we got to see a lot of different unique scenarios and sharing and different techniques and things like that. I loved the behind the scenes porno thing because I find it very fascinating how you film pornography, because it's not just people having sex. There is angles and lighting and, you know, choreographing and things like that. And I find that very, very interesting, how they do that. So I really liked that aspect as well. So that kind of racked up the chili pepper scale for me just a little bit more. However, I couldn't give this like the 4 chili peppers that you think it would have been because of all the different things that were going on, because it was still fake. Yes, they're having sex, but it was still, it wasn't the emotional component with it, in all of it. So I enjoyed also seeing the detached emotional component with this. So I had a great time with this book. This thing was awesome, and I definitely plan on continuing with the rest of the series. I actually bought the rest of the series when I bought this book, so I definitely want to continue with it, but I would like to read the first installments and like read it in order, so yay. The next book I read was my viewer recommendation book, and that is Bait by Jade West, and this was recommended to me by Ashton over Ashton Reads. This book will have a full book review that you will see up here very, very shortly, and when it is up, it will be linked up here in a card and down below, so you can go check it out. I gave this thing 4 stars. This thing was, what the fuck, awesome. This thing came out of left field for me, and I just devoured the shit out of this thing. I had such a good time with this. We have a standalone. We have some heavy hitting triggers of miscarriage, burning of a human, loss of a loved one, stalking. We feature the primal kink in this as well. We also have C&C, which is consensual non-consent. If you're not familiar with that, that is the sexual act of the sexual act of engaging in sexual role play as if consent has not been given, but it has been given prior to the action starting. And we also feature a rape fantasy in this, another dark, heavy trigger, another type of role-playing fantasy where we have a role-playing of a victim and an attacker in a secure, previously consented on scenario. This thing was stellar. It was so well done with the triggers. Abigail and Phoenix, our heroine and hero, they had multiple plot points that wove together to form this really dark and twisted cat and mouse romance that ends up becoming something of strength and beauty. And the sexualized healing component of this book was just fucking phenomenal. I had a really, really good time with this. I plan on picking up some more of Jade West's work. This thing was stellar. Please go check out the review. It will be linked up in the corner, in the card, and in the down box below, so you can get a more full, in-depth review of this book. This thing was spot on, fantastic. However, it does have very serious triggers, so please read all the trigger warnings. Those are just some of the big ones that I mentioned, and understand that everything in this book is consensual. It was consented upon by both parties, and we have a great consent conversation. Again, it is not just shoved in your face to have it there. It is incorporated within the storyline, and it is Phoenix, our hero, covering his ass, keeping a digital paper trail, knowing that if this goes south, he's the one that's going to be facing legal ramifications, and he is covering his ass, and he even says it. So Jade West was very, very forethought of giving Phoenix that characteristic of making sure he's protected because he has a family, he has a business, he understands that the type of sexual nature that he has is a very risky sexual nature, and seriously, things can go wrong. So he is doing as much as he can to protect himself from any of that ever happening, but yet still being able to appease his sexual fantasy and also help Abigail as well go through her own sexual healing process and fulfillment of this fantasy. I think this was handled really, really well. 4.5 on the chili pepper scale because of the rape fantasy and how it went about. And we also have a pierced hero. Yeah, so I got lots to say. Go check out that review. Yes, it was awesome. My next book that I have to talk about, which was another one that was above 3 stars, is Sarah J. Maas's Crescent City, House of Earth and Blood, the first installment of the Crescent City series. This also has a full book review, and I will link it up here or in the down box below once it gets uploaded. This thing was not what I thought it was going to be. I I was not as attached to this as I was the other Sarah J. Maas's work, first installment. So I was more attached to Throne of Glass and A Court of Thorns and Roses than I was to this first installment. But we do have triggers for drug use, murder, graphic sexual situations, and classism in this. Those are some of the big ones that stuck out the most to me. This book, I had a good time with this book. I enjoyed the storyline of this book, but this is a first time for me. And although I was supposed to be on the live show, I had to bow out because I did not complete the book by the time the live show went on. But once I did complete it, I watched it. And a common thread that I found was that a lot of people's first time reading this book, they did not really care for it. If they had ever read Sarah J. Maas prior to this, and their first time reading this kind of fell short for them because it's so polar different than what Sarah J. Maas does. Yes, we still have some type of urban fantasy. We have paranormal. I mean, this thing features angels, fae, werewolves, vampires, godlike creatures, snakes, people, and this really creepy, long, demon-looking thing. Like, we've got all the paranormal shit in this book. We do. But it veers so far off from what we're so used to Sarah J. Maas, because this is like a mystery thriller, forced proximity, forced to work together kind of romance. And at the same time, it's not really a romance. There's a whole other subplot other than the romance. The romance is just kind of a bonus, really. And to be perfectly honest, the romance was not very strong for me in this. It wasn't until the last 250 pages that I really started to like get into and start really getting attached to these characters. But those 200 to 200 pages, that's what brought it up to 4-star, because this was going to be a 3-star for me. But those last pages, I'm like, that's where I saw the Sarah that I've been accustomed to reading so far. That's where I saw her. That's where I saw all of these multiple storylines verge into one. And I saw what was going on. I was like, what? Shit. Oh, crap. Oh, it's happening. It's happening, people. This is it. Like, this is the moment. But it took me out of almost an 800-plus page book, the last 250 pages to get there. So that was a little disheartening. I wasn't as attached to these characters as I was in the first installments of her previous 2 series that I have read. But with that being said, that seems to be a common thing for first-time readers of this book. And on a second read of it, people seem to enjoy it a hell of a lot more because they start seeing more and they start grasping more because they're looking for certain things. So I'm hoping that on a second reread, whenever the 3rd installment of this comes out, I'll probably reread both of these installments prior to that one coming out. So I can completely refresh that. Maybe I will be able to jump this up to 5 stars because it's Sarah. She walked in as a 3 and she only moved up 1 star. So I'm just kind of like, okay. So yeah. And I gotta say, the Chili Peppers, this book was a fucking tease. This was a tease. Like, I didn't feel the pull and the draw between Hunt and Bryce that I did between the other 2 main romances from the previous series. I didn't feel the pull. I don't know why, but I just didn't. I only felt it one time, and that was the kitchen scene. And then after that, I didn't really feel it. It almost, everything else felt kind of forced with it. So this was I don't want to say a letdown because it still was fucking fantastic. It was still well written. It still kept me on my edge of my seat, but it wasn't in the same way. It was very, very different, and I don't really enjoy that difference. But maybe it's because I'm so used to her in a certain way that I need to look at it through different lenses. And maybe the next, on reread, I might try that, hopefully. So, yeah. And the last book that I completed for the month was Broken Puppet by Amo Jones, and I gave this 4.5 stars. This is the 2nd installment to the Elite Kings Club series, and we have graphic sexual situations, we have child sexual assault on page, and we have Again, an Emo Jones true mindfuckery at its finest. This is a direct follow-up of Silver Swan, so you do have to read The Silver Swan to understand this book, or it will not make sense. It doesn't make sense if you have read the first fucking book, because that's Emo Jones for you, guys. That's Emo Jones. It's clear confusion the entire way through. I'm still clearly confused. I know that there's something going on bigger and badder and scarier, and I'm confused as fuck, but it's done so well that I'm gonna keep going. Gonna keep going, guys. Gonna keep going because it's fucking awesome. I had such a good time with this. We get so many questions answered from the first book, but yet we were left with so many new questions because there are other installments, and we get to further develop Bishop and Madison's relationship. We get to see it in not so much the hate to love component, but more of the we get to see more of the love side of the hate to love versus the hate side. The first book was more like the hate, I fucking hate that I feel for you type thing. And this one is like, I still don't like that I love you, but I'm starting to understand that I like this feeling about you, but I still don't like it for my everyday person because it makes me weak type thing. What didn't work? This was not as steamy as the first installment. It was not. And I'm a little annoyed by that because the first one was steamy as fuck and I liked it. I liked it a lot more in the steam level than this one. This one was not enough super sexy fun times for me. It was not. It was not. And I need more. So the next installments better ratchet that up. I liked that the revelations and twists, they were leveled up. Like her reveals, when you find something here, it doesn't really make sense until you get to this revelation over here, and then this diagonal actually makes sense, and this like balancing act, and it all kind of balances out. She like leveled that up one more level, and I'm like, how in the fuck did you do this? She did it really, really well. However, because she did that, there were some plot points that were introduced at the beginning of this installment that were just seemed to be dropped. But going back to Silver Swan, she did do that in Silver Swan. She just kind of dropped points, and those were points that I remember, because I went back and watched my wrap-up on Silver Swan, saying that she left unanswered questions that could be easily explained, and I don't like unanswered questions that feel like they could be easily explained. Well, they weren't easily explained because they get answered here, and they were not easy explanations. Oh no, they were the fuck explanations? What? So these dropped plot points annoy me. They do. But seeing how she picked them up from the first book and made them the second book, I'm thinking she will take those plot points and make them the third book. So they're not really dropped plot points. They're just a Mo Jones way of saying, not yet. You don't get that answer yet. You haven't earned it yet. And that's what I feel like. So, one of the main things that really bothered me about this book was Madison in the first book. She was headstrong. She was in their face in the very first book. And by the end, she was kind of a dick to her friend. She's like, oh, they're fucking whores. Who cares? I didn't like that concept about Madison. The concept I didn't like about Madison in this book was that she definitely showed her naiveness. In the first book, she is genuinely fucking confused. She has no idea what the fuck is going on. She knows there's something going on, and you're just as confused as she is. But in this installment, she has the book. She has the book that explains the kings. She explains everything. And they're constantly asking her, where are you in the book? Where are you in the book? Where are you in the book? We all had to read the book. Becoming a king, we all had to read the book. She doesn't sit down and just read the fucking book. She keeps saying, I want to know answers. I want you to tell me. Obviously, these fucking assholes are not going to tell you shit. They haven't told you shit in the first book. They're not going to tell you shit now. So guess what? If you have the answers in the book and they tell you the answer in the book, go read the fucking book. It's just like very naive choices. It's like you could have these answered by yourself if you just took a night and sat down and fucking read the book. They're not stopping you from reading this said book. So just fucking read it. That got really irritating with me. So I hope that that characteristic of her gets knocked away and removed from the next installment. 3 chili peppers for the spice rating on this book. Very angry, aggressive sex for the little sex that we got. And this blurring of I'm going to kill you or I'm going to fuck you. Like, this same line is said multiple times by bishops. Like, I don't know if I should fucking kill you or I should fuck you first, or I should fuck you and then kill you, or I should kill you and then fuck you. Like, it's this constant blurring, and I really enjoyed it for the most part because she found so many different ways of implying that same statement. This you're either going to die or I'm going to fuck you statement. And she found so many different ways of saying that exact same thing. And I fucking love that. I thought that was great because it made for some really tense situations that could have gone either way. They could have gone very, very steamy, or they could have gone very, very dark. And Amo Jones does neither. She just leaves it for your interpretation. And I'm just like, God damn it. Damn it. So this thing kept me on my seat, on my edge of my seat, definitely kept me sexually frustrated and also just frustrated in general. Amo Jones did it again. So I'm very excited to pick up the third installment and continue with this series. But that is all I read this month, guys. I had some really, really good stuff. And again, if you'd like more in-depth reviews on any of these books, go check out my weekly wrap-up playlist. It will have all the books that I talk about. I talk about every single book that I read in a month in there with more full in-depth. And also go check out those reviews that I mentioned, Bait and House of Earth and Blood as well. So that is all I got for you guys today. I will see you guys all soon with another video.